Time to talk about all 21 books that I read in February. I read a really surprising number of books this month for it being the shortest month of the year. That's like almost a book a day. They were mostly novellas, okay? They were pretty much all novellas, and I just binged a couple of novella series, and that's how this happened. So let's get into it. First up, I binged the Murderbot Diary series by Martha Wells. This is book 5. This is the only full-length novel. I think my favorite of all of the books, I read 6 of them this month. I think my favorites were book 2 and book 5. This full-length novel I really did enjoy. I just really love the character that is in both of these books so freaking much, and I love that little I just loved it, okay? I loved it. This series is so good. I love a sci-fi series. This I picked up because people kept recommending it to me as something that was cozy sci-fi. The first cozy sci-fi I read was The Monk and the Robot series by Becky Chambers. It's gonna be on my top 10 books of the year this year. And so I've just been hungry to pick up more things like that. Like I said in the cozy fantasy video that went up last week, I really feel like this is going to be too violent for most people to class as cozy fantasy, but it is exactly what I'm looking for in that genre, because we are still having these conversations about finding purpose, and I think it's just really well done in here. The violence is there, but our main character, Murderbot, is just so sarcastic and witty, and the first book is like very apathetic to what's going on, so it doesn't really feel like the stakes are high. As the series progresses and Murderbot finds this found family of humans and other bots who they're like really connecting with, it does feel higher stakes because Murderbot actually cares about these people. In the first book, it doesn't really care what's going on. So anyways, in this series, we're following Murderbot. That is the name that it has given itself. And Murderbot is a security unit, a sec unit. And what that entails is Murderbot is basically there to like protect humans. It's a half human, half robot construct. It goes rogue. It finds this found family that helps it like understand that not all humans are awful human beings. It's been treated pretty badly before, and so it's kind of unlearning, unpacking all this trauma. It's got some memory problems. We're having really intense conversations about what it is to be human, but we're also having just like a very silly time, and I had a fantastic time with it. The second novella series that I binged this month was the Every Heart a Doorway, The Wayward Children series. These are the first 3 books. Again, I read 6 of these this year. I had read the first 2 previously, but I hadn't read any of the other books yet. I really, really love this series, and I would love to kind of finish my read through of this in the next couple of months. So that's something that I'm going to hopefully be doing soon, because I did forget a lot of what happened and I had to reread the first 2. I don't want to have to reread the first 6 books again, even though I loved all of these. I would love to just like complete that. Okay. This series is about these children who find portals to other worlds. We're talking Chronicles of Narnia type situation. They go to this other world. They are a hero in this world. It's perfect for them. This is where they finally feel like they belong. And then they find themselves back in our world, and it's really traumatic for them because they felt like they really belonged in that other world that they went to, and now they're kind of stuck back here. No one believes them, no one understands what they've been through. It's really, really difficult for them to reacclimate. They're trying to find their door again back to this other portal world. And so they go to Eleanor West's Home for Wayward Children. They go to this boarding school and they learn about the world that they have been to, and they work through their trauma together, and it's a bunch of kids living together, and they've all been to these crazy worlds, and some of them have been to really, really different worlds, and it's kind of hard for them to fit in there. There's a lot of really incredible conversations about like larger things. There's a lot of really great representation in here. So far, we've had a lot of conversation. I think my favorite one so far has been the second book, Down Among the Sticks and Bones. This one has a lot of really great things to say about gender norms and how damaging it can be to force a rigid gender role onto people, regardless of what that role is. We've also had really great trans representation, intersex representation. The issues and topics that we're talking about are just handled really, really well in this series, and I highly, highly recommend it. So I would love to finish binging my way through this series. I think there are 11 books out so far. I have some of the other ones, but I don't have the fourth one yet, so that's why I have these ones here. You know, heads up for anyone who has Scribd, they're all available as audiobooks on Scribd right now, and that's where I've kind of been binging them. Each audiobook is narrated by a different person, so it's actually been a really fun experience to kind of like go through all of that. Then I read a bunch of cozy fantasy because I was doing last week's cozy fantasy video and I wanted to branch out and read a couple more things before I filmed that video. So I read Newt's Emerald by Garth Nix. This is the story of a girl who is trying to recover her emerald. This is a family heirloom that's been passed down. It's got some magical powers with it. We're in like a Regency era England. She goes to London early to she was planning to go there already for her like coming out the season, if you will, to find a husband. And then she also is going to see if she can find the emerald, and she ends up dressing up and putting a glamour on like as a man because there's magic in this world. She dresses up as a man and she goes undercover to kind of investigate because women, that wouldn't have been like okay for her to do that as a woman, so she had to dress up as a man to do that. It's young adult. It reads very young adult. If you love young adult, I think you will have a good time. If you're looking for a young adult version of like a half a soul, this is the thing that you're looking for. I don't typically read young adult, and so it wasn't my favorite thing that I've ever read, but I really do recommend this if you do typically love young adult. There is a romance in here. It's very, very chaste. They kiss like once, and it's a very chaste kiss. So if you're looking for romance, not really the vibe going on here. But it is really fun to kind of watch her juggle these two different identities and kind of go on this. There's a lot of different adventures that she goes on trying to uncover this emerald and the magic behind it. It's a really fun time. Then I read Howls Moving Castle. I've been wanting to read this for a really long time because I love the movie Howl's Moving Castle, and they are actually quite different. Howl is much more annoying in the book, but I think because I love him in the movie, it like kind of tempered my annoyance at him, but I did find myself getting pretty annoyed at Howl. I was annoyed at Howl the first time I watched the movie too though, so. It's a similar story, but some things are a lot different, like Sophie's relationship with her sisters is very different. There's a lot more about the sisters in the book. There are a lot of backstory things that I think really informed my viewing of the movie. I watched the movie right after I read the book as well, and I really enjoyed that experience. So I think if you are a lover of the movie, I would recommend reading the book. I don't think if you've never watched the movie, I can't tell you how your experience would be of this book if you've never seen the movie. So maybe try the movie, see if you like it. If you do like the movie, then I would say pick up the book. But I liked the changes that they made in the movie. I really did. And I loved using the book as a way to find insight into why those changes were made, or find more backstory on things that might be like happening a little bit too quick in the film because, you know, they can't do a 5-hour film, even though I'd probably watch it. But you get more backstory in the book on why people are the way they are and all that good stuff. But I just really liked the way that everything was handled in the movie more than the book, but I still did enjoy the book. You know what I'm saying. Okay, next let's talk about Sheets. This is a really cute graphic novel. I'd love to get my hands on a physical copy of this. I got this from my library. It is a story of a young woman. I believe she's in high school. Her mother has passed away, and now she has kind of like taken over the family laundromat, and she is trying to juggle that with school, and also she's grieving the loss of her mom. Her dad has taken it really, really hard, and he's kind of like not very helpful anymore, and she also has a younger brother that she is taking care of. So she's got a lot on her plate. There's this guy in the town who's like trying to take the laundromat away from her. It's very stressful. We also are following a little ghosty. He's like a new ghost. He's trying to adapt to this new life after death situation. All of the ghosts are like requisitioned a sheet, and so he looks like a little ghost here in a little sheet, and their paths cross. Some like chaos ensues. They have a little friendship. They kind of help each other in their own ways. It's a really sweet story. I enjoyed it. The second one I think is called Delicates, and I will be picking that up later this year. Ooh, okay. My least favorite thing I read this month was Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett, which I did not expect. Neil Gaiman is one of my favorite authors. I also read a book by Terry Pratchett this month, and I really enjoyed that. I also really love the TV show Good Omens. So, I mean, I was really sure that this was gonna go a different way, but I really just didn't like it. It was too casually sexist and racist for me to have a good time. It was very much a, this is funny that they're being sexist and racist. Like, it's so over the top that it's very obvious what's going on, that it's not portrayed as in like, this is a good idea. but I don't find those things funny at all. I think it's really lazy to have your comedic relief be a super racist, sexist character, and I don't want that in my books. This story is about an angel and a demon who kind of team up to prevent the apocalypse. They've been together for a really long time as friends, and they kind of just like bend the rules a little bit to kind of just like do whatever so that they make their lives easier. They both really love humans, and then the end of the world is kind of starting up. They're like, oh, maybe we should try to stop this. Like, wouldn't that be good? So they're kind of going against heaven and hell's directives to stop what's going on. It's very silly and funny. If you've read Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman before, it's got the wit, it's got the tomfoolery. It just also has some elements that I didn't vibe with. If you love this book, I'm so happy that you loved it. I also really wanted to love it, but it's one of those situations where I thought the TV show did a great job at cutting out everything that made me uncomfortable, and I'm just gonna have that be my experience of this story instead of returning to the book. If you're looking for a good angel demon story though, Small Miracles by Olivia Atwater did the trick for me. Then I read the new Finley Donovan book, Finley Donovan Jumps the Gun. This is the third book in the series. It just came out, I think, in February or in January. I had a fantastic time. I think it was either through my library, through Scribd, I read the audiobook. That's how I've experienced all of this series. I love the audiobooks for the Finley Donovan series. We're following a woman. In the first book, she is at like a Panera talking to her book agent about her next book. Someone overhears their conversation and thinks that Finley is a hit woman, so she commissions her to kill her husband, and Finley ends up in this like really wacky, crazy thing, and it's just really silly. It's a fantastic time. This is like my comfort series. I always know I'm gonna have a good time when I pick up these books, and that's what happened with book 3. I had a good time. A lot of this book is set at this like police training academy, and I will say, this book was more stressful than the other two for me. I really felt, I know a lot of people have said that the first book made them feel like really stressed out because Finley just keeps doing the dumbest things. Honestly, she keeps just like doing the wrong thing. Like, come on, like don't do that. How'd you get yourself into this situation? I feel like book 2 probably was my favorite. It flew by. I couldn't tell you anything that happened in that book. I just could tell you that I left the book with a big smile on my face. This one did feel a little bit stressful to me though, because even though I knew that, you know, Vero and Finley are gonna get out of it eventually, they got themselves into some sticky situations this time. Then I picked up Can't Spell Treason Without T. This is a cozy fantasy that's got some more adventure, higher stakes in it. I really, really love this book, and I will continue shouting it from the rooftop. I'm reading the second one in March. I'm having a really good time with this series. The author's also on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, I would recommend following her. It's Rebecca Thorne. She provides so much information about what it is to be a self-published author and kind of what the process is like and everything. It's just a really good time. So the premise of this story is that we're following two women. They are in love. One of them is a mage. She's like really powerful. She's like the lead mage, if you will. She's very important. And then our other main character is a palace guard, and she works for this really awful queen. She's like very violent, and it's not a good employment situation. They both end up kind of like fleeing their lives to open up a bookshop that sells tea, and it's really freaking cute. If you loved Legends and Lattes, there's a big chunk of this that is similar to that in the fact that we are renovating a barn and we are setting up a shop, but this also has a lot more action in it. So if you wanted more relationship and also more action out of Legends and Lattes, I think this is the perfect book for you. If you want absolutely no stakes, this is probably not the book for you. This does have more stakes. We're going on some minor quests. We're fighting dragons. We've got things going on in here a lot more than we do in Legends and Lattes. We still have that everyone is so nice to each other thing, and I really just love the relationship in here because it is an established relationship. I feel like a lot of relationships that I see in books and in film and in TV shows, we're entering a relationship as it's starting, and so people are trying to feel each other out. There's more tension. It makes sense. That's where we're starting. But in this book, we're entering an established relationship as they're kind of taking the relationship to the next level. They're moving in together. They're opening this business together. They're trying to run away from the queen's guards together. But they really love each other, and they're really committed to each other, and they communicate really, really well even when they're going through difficult things, and when they're thinking logically, they know enough about each other to be like, I don't think you're actually feeling this way. Like, let's talk through this. What's really the root cause of this? It's just really beautiful, and I loved it. Then I read The Girl Who Drank the Moon. This one really took me by surprise. I didn't think I was going to love it as much as I did. I'm not typically a middle grade reader, but this had everything that I wanted it to have. We're following this town where every year the townspeople sacrifice a baby to the witch in the woods in order to keep the town safe. Meanwhile, every year, a witch finds a baby in the woods and she takes it in and she cares for it the best she can. She finds it a loving family. It's this like miscommunication situation, but there's actually like a dark like someone has created this situation for a reason and it's not a good reason. So we're following that whole journey, figuring out why they've done this, and it's all because they want more power, and it's just like really interesting. The world here feels really, really big. The audiobook is also fantastic. That's how I read it. I got it from my library. Love the audiobook. There's also a baby dragon in here, and he's so cute. One of my favorite animal companions. You guys know I love an animal companion. This little dragon, one of my favorites. It's so cute. And I haven't even told you the major premise of the story. The major premise of this story is one of these babies that's left in the woods. This witch who finds her ends up adopting this baby as her grandchild. She's like found other homes for the rest of the children, but she keeps this one as her own because she accidentally gives the girl moonlight to drink. And once the girl drinks the moon, she becomes enmagicked. And it's really, really interesting to just like watch all the chaos that ensues once her powers start to come in and the really tough decisions that her adopted grandmother has to think through and decide on in order to keep her safe and the world safe. It's just so heartwarming and heart-wrenching and beautiful, and I loved it. And please read. One of my favorite cozy fantasies. Even if you don't typically read middle grade, I think you'll really like this one because we are following a lot of older characters, including this grandmother. Okay, 2 left and then we're done. Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies is another cozy that really just didn't hit the way that I wanted it to hit. I know a lot of people are loving this, but I don't think it's cozy, and I went into it thinking it was going to be very cozy. And I think if I had come into it thinking that it was a smaller setting, lower stakes, regular fantasy, like an Age of Myth type situation that I'm thinking in my head, I think I would have loved it a lot more. Because I do love fae stories. I love stories about fairies, and I love stories about academia. Our main character is creating an encyclopedia of fairies. She's on this remote island. I'm thinking of it as Svalbard in my head. I love watching the content creator who does stuff about Svalbard on YouTube. Like, it's all the things that I really love. There's a dog. She has a giant dog. Seems like my perfect book. But I found the beginning to drag a lot. Then when our love interest comes into the picture, I was back into it. I was really excited for it. And then the stuff with the fairies started happening. It was really spooky. You guys know I love a spooky story, but I was expecting it to be cozy, and that wasn't really what I felt reading it. There is a beautiful found family at the end, but I kind of wish this was marketed differently. I understand why they're doing it. Cozy fantasy is huge right now. It was a darker book than I was expecting. I think that impacted my view on it. So I want to make sure that you are getting the right view going into it, because I think you will enjoy it more if you have the right expectations going in. You know what I mean. And then our last book is Guards by Terry Pratchett. This is one of the books in the Discworld series. There are like over 40 books in this series. It's very well beloved on the internet. I had a really great time. I will be continuing. Probably not for a while. I have just like so many things that I want to read, but I think this is a really good airplane read, if that makes sense. Like when you are stuck somewhere and you just want like pure escapism, pure silliness, it always keeps you on your toes, tomfoolery afoot. This is a great series to binge. There are different theories on where you should like start in the series, because people say that Terry Pratchett didn't come into his own with his writing until later in the series, so they recommend starting with one of the things like the Weird Sisters or Guards, because he's really good at his writing in there, so you kind of like get introduced into the series. Other people are like, no, you should definitely read them in publication order. So it just kind of depends on what you want to do. There are communities on Reddit and on TikTok who've read the whole thing that can help you with that if you're interested. I had a really good time. This one is mainly focused on the city watch guard people. We're kind of like this ragtag band. We've got Carrot, who's just a very silly character. He comes into it. We've got tiny dragons, we've got really big dragons, we've got like secret cults. It's just a really funny time all around. I laughed out loud multiple times reading this. I had a really good time. The audiobooks are incredible. I read this both on my Kindle and on audiobook, both from the library. loved all of my experience with that. Okay, my battery's gonna die, so let's see if we can wrap this up before that happens. Those are all 21 books that I read in February. I would love to know what you read in February. There are a lot more of you now, which is very exciting. So we just hit 500 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for all the love on that cozy fantasy video. I'm so happy that you guys are here, and I'm really excited to keep making content for you in the future. There's gonna be a bonus TBR video out soon, but next Sunday's upload is gonna be a 24-hour readathon. I'm staying up all night. I'm reading some spooky things. I'm reading some 5-star predictions. We're reading some graphic novels, some cozy things. It's gonna be a really good time. Well, not for my sleep schedule, but for your viewing entertainment, it should be a good time. That'll be up next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, so I will see you then. Please let me know what you thought of any of these books, if you read them, or if you're gonna pick any of them up. I'd love to chat to you in the comments as always. All right, I will see you next week. Bye.